Hey guys, Mike Chamberlain here, and welcome back to another episode of Teck Talk Tuesday. So, I've kind of neglected my Teck Talk Tuesdays. I can't help it. You know what? You buy a CABOVER, you buy 2 CABOVERs. Next thing you know, you have 4 CABOVERs, and all you want to do is make CABOVER content, because let's face it, CABOVERs are kind of cool. But anyways, you know what else is cool? Peterbilt. Yeah, kind of digging my day job. Because really there is only one king, and that is Peterbilt. So, but anyways, enough babbling, jammering, slamming, and oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. So anyways, enough of this babble talk. Today's episode of Teck Talk Tuesday is all about the MX-13 engine. Now, some of you may ask, Mike, why do I need an MX engine? Well, I'm here to tell you some pluses of the MX engine. So, yeah, right now, with the part shortage, we need to take advantage of everything that's available to us, like the Paccar MX engine. Now, I just wanted to talk quickly about the Paccar MX engine to give you guys an overview as to what you can expect, because I think the industry, and I mean, I don't speak for everywhere, because down in the US, back east, certainly the Paccar MX engine is a lot more popular than it is, say, in the Pacific Northwest, if you will, because over here, most of my customers, they all want big power, so 565, 2050 torque is what I do 99% of the time. You have a hard time getting drivers, so they want big power. Our gross vehicle weights are basically 160,000 pounds if you're running a 9-axle configuration. So we don't do as many Paccar engines, but I have done Paccar engines in an 8-axle configuration, and they've done just fine. In fact, in an 8-axle configuration, so tri-quad, it is less power than the 565 2050 torque. Duh. I mean, you just compare the specs. But the difference is, with going with the Paccar motor, like in that configuration, I know one customer, he actually he bought his truck 4 years ago. He just sold it. And he actually did a lot better for it price-wise, because originally we said, it's going to be worth a little bit less when you go to trade it in than, say, a Cummins. But he actually did really well, all things considered, because of the fact, well, actually for 2 things. One, he was saving about $100 a day in fuel doing what he was doing. Was he first up the hill? No. Did he make it up the hills? Made it up every hill. Did just fine. But he saved $100 a day. So if you think about it, $100 a day, if you work 20 days out of a month, that's $2,000. With $2,000, that could pay for a third, a half, part of your truck payment. You could buy a brand new Super Duty and have it be free just for driving an MX engine. So would you rather have an MX engine and a free Super Duty, or would you rather get a Cummins? I don't know, I kind of like the idea of getting a free Super Duty. Or put the money in the bank. There's another thought. Put that money in the bank that you're saving and just set it aside. Forget that you have it. Then in 4 years, when you go to trade off or whatever, take a look at that bank account and say, okay, was this worth it? The problem in trucking nowadays, let's face it, we don't get paid enough. Well, I say we, but I'm not actually trucking, but you guys don't get enough. Expenses are high, fuel is high. I had a customer phone me this morning wanting to see about an electric truck because he said his fuel bill is going to be anywhere from $130,000 to $200,000 next year. And he's like, you know what? For what I'm paying for fuel, you give me an electric truck that'll give me a 500 kilometer range. So what would that be? Like, say 350 miles range. And he's like, I'm all in. Oh, and he also wants it to pack 72,000 kilograms, which is like 160,000 pounds. So that might be a little bit iffy, but he's like, if it's got 150 kilometer range or mile range with one battery, he said, put 3 batteries on it. So anyways, that's the future. We're a ways off. But, talking about the MX engine, what I find really interesting, and now this is just my opinion and we're getting down to the basics. And of course, I'm a Paccar salesman, Peterbilt salesman, king of the road, best truck out there. Paccar is by far, leader in the industry with having Peterbilt and Kenworth, and being that this is an MX video, I'm just, I guess if you can't afford a Peterbilt, you can always buy a Kenworth. But yeah, so the Paccar engine, in my opinion, drives just like a cat. Now, if you talk to the new engineers and stuff, they talk about down speeding. You know, it's like, well, you've got all your torque at 1,000 RPM, so you gear it to like 273s or something so you can idle down the highway, and it's great on fuel. In my neck of the woods, when you're packing big loads, that doesn't work. You can't pack 140,000 pounds and idle down the highway. I mean, you can, but it's gonna be doggy. You know, so generally what I do is I'll gear a Paccar MX down, say one set. So like if normally I run a 4.3 on a tri-drive, I drop them down to 4.56, and it just seems to work a little bit better that way. But you know, in talking with the down speeding, and what I was trying to get at with this is basically down speeding in an MX is exactly what Caterpillar was been doing for years. You know, you old timers would know, like when you're driving a Cat, they don't have that rapid response like a Cummins does. You know, they're smoother putting on the power. You know, they like to run slow. Like a lot of my customers back in the day that ran Cat, they would gear them up down speeding so that you could basically cruise at a lower RPM for fuel economy. And that's why, you know, back in the day, you know, you got good fuel economy in the Cats. You know, certainly the Cummins was a little bit more performance, but ironically enough, back in the day, a Cummins 550 was actually like a 560 or a 570 rated at a 550, whereas a Cat 550 was rated at a 550, you know, and like Cat would, their 550 rating was like max horsepower, whereas a Cummins, it was like nominal. So the Cummins always performed better when you talked about horsepower wise. And the MX is very similar. Interestingly enough, our Paccar division, now this is a few years ago, so it wasn't with the X15, it was with the ISX, but an ISX 550, 1850 torque compared to a Paccar MX 510 horsepower, 1850 torque. The MX actually performed better than the ISX did. And that was before, you know, all the latest and greatest. But yeah, so basically what I'm trying to say is if you like Cat engines, you're gonna like an MX engine. And if you're a young guy and you like Cat engines because you were told that Cats are cool, well, and I mean, let's face it, Cat engines, the old Cat engines were cool. But anybody that drove them for a long time or a bit knows that the Jakes suck. The Jakes suck and they don't perform like a Cummins. So, and when I say suck, I just mean they're not as good as what the Cummins is. I mean, the Cummins right now in a 15 liter, 600 brake horsepower on the Jake, I mean, you just can't beat it. You really can't. So the MX, it's a 13 liter engine. The Jake isn't as strong as the Cummins, but it's also a 13 liter engine. So you don't have as much mass moving, yada, yada, yada. But it's very much like a Cat. And if you've driven a 550 horsepower Cat, it performs, I would say, identically to a Paccar MX. If you like driving a Cat, you're gonna like driving an MX. And I don't, you know, well, I mean, leave a message down below if you have a different opinion if you're a Cat guy. So yeah, Cat and MX, I put them in the same pot, like so identical spec wise and performance wise. You know, and moving forward with greenhouse gas rules and all this crap, you know, it's pushing us to more efficient engines, and whether we like it or not, an engine that gets more greenhouse gas credits and that burns less fuel is going to be pushed upon us more so than ones that aren't, and depending on your vocation. And quite honestly, I like driving the MX engine because it drives like a Cat. You know, don't get me wrong, I like my Cummins engines and I'll sell them all day long, but when it comes to making money, it's something a guy really has to consider. And especially now with the parts supply shortage and issues we have, like for me as a Peterbilt salesman, I can get you an MX engine a lot easier than I can get you Cummins engine, because Paccar, one, it's their own proprietary engine. So they've got parts for it and they've been lining up their parts. So when Cummins is supplying parts for every OEM, although I think Paccar probably gets a little bit better treatment from Cummins, but yeah. So anyways, if there's a part supply shortage right now, it's easier to get MX. Certainly in my neck of the woods, if you want an MX tri-drive per se, I can get you on. Well, I've got one available for first quarter of next year, which is probably already sold. In fact, I convinced our bosses to let me have a stock truck because my Cummins builds were already full. So I got an MX. And so second, third, and fourth, in my neck of the woods, it's harder to fill my MX spots. So if you're willing to try an MX engine, if you like driving a Cat, try an MX. Try saving some fuel. And you know what? If you don't like it, your next truck, you can go to a Cummins. But honestly, I think you'll do just fine. Well, actually, I know you'll do just fine. It's a moneymaker. It's all there is to it. You know what? Guy might have to eat a little bit of crow if you're not the first up the hill, but you're going to be making money. And at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It's not how much money you make, because you can only make so much. It's how much you can stick in your jeans. And that's the secret to making money nowadays is not what you make, what you can keep. Keeping. That's the big thing. But yeah, so anyways, I just wanted to talk about MX. A couple key points that I like to talk about. Drives just like a Cat. Cat engines, way smoother, a lot more driver friendly than a Cummins was. And you know what? They already had down speeding, so for fuel economy. Talking about fuel economy, you know, depending on the application, you could save as much as 100 liters a day. 100 liters a day? That's a lot. Well, maybe more depending on how many miles you put on. And I haven't touched on this yet, it's got a B10 life rating, which basically means that in the global rating system, they predict that 90% of MX engines will make it to 1 million miles. So B10 means 10% are expected to fail to reach 1 million miles. Interestingly enough, Detroit and Cummins are both have B50 ratings, so they say that 50% of them are going to fail before they reach 1 million miles. And you know what? Some of you might say, you know what, an ISX with the way we were having some failures there might be more than 50%. But that's solved now. I mean, you know what, it's like anything. It's even like the Cats, the 6NZs. They had their issues when they came out too. But interestingly enough, the MX, interestingly enough, the MX B10 rating, and that's something that I don't think a lot of people talk about. You know, when Cummins was going through some issues and they had introduced the piston scrubber ring when they were having the carbon packing, the MX engine already had it. You know, they didn't go out there and have an issue and then solve it. They already did it to make it a long-lasting engine. You know, a 13-liter engine, you know, you've got less mass in that, and I think that helps get it to a B10 rating as well. But yeah, 1 million miles in an engine. If you've got a fleet and you're looking for long-lasting, you got to take a look at that. Service intervals. They're talking if you have reduced idle time, which, you know, here's another topic. If you don't have to idle your truck, don't. Shut it off. Get an APU. Don't idle it. You don't need to. Save life of your engine, save fuel. So if you don't idle as much, so I believe the figure is if you idle less than 20%, you can go 75,000 miles between oil changes, which is kind of unbelievable. If you idle it more than 20% or 20% or more, then they say 50,000 miles. And if it's vocation, I think it's like 30,000 miles. I mean, where I come from, we do it by the hours, but if you've got a big fleet, if you can save on an oil change, you know, what's an oil change cost nowadays? $300, $500, depending whether it's US or Canadian money. And, you know, it's a big expense. Now, personally, I like to change oil a little sooner than later because, you know, it's cheap insurance. And also the Paccar MX is actually running like a Cummins aftertreatment system. So parts availability, that part is covered. You know, I would say maybe one of the only, well, I mean, it's like anything. There can be downsides to everything. A downside is you have to get service work done at either a Peterbilt or Kenworth dealer, you know, because it is a proprietary engine. But I mean, there's lots of Pete and Kenworth dealers all over the countryside. Some of the other things, like it's not as easy as a Cummins where you just take the laptop out and without having to plug into the mainframe, so to speak. Whereas with the MX, they got to plug in and you know, talk to Paccar, which can take a little bit more time. You know, setting up the parameters isn't quite as quick and easy, but honestly, once you get it set, it's set. They actually have a rear gear train, which, you know, in conventional trucks, it's a little more work. Like if you have to pull the cam out, like, you know, like say you have a cam failure, which I've seen a couple of, certainly not chronic. You got to pull the engine out, which is a bit of a pain in the butt. But thankfully we don't have a lot of cam failures. And you know where the rear grain train came from. Rear gear train was because the engine was European. So it's more sophisticated. I don't know why I just assume that Europeans are more sophisticated than us North Americans, but I don't know, maybe it's because their countries are older. But yeah, rear gear train because they run cabovers. I know, isn't that great? Oh, maybe I should put an MX in my cabover. Anyways, sidetrack there. Yeah, so that's why they have a rear gear train, because they're originally built like back in 2008. So anybody that says the MX is a new engine, it's not a new engine. It's been around for years and it's run in Europe today, even. So that's why they have a rear gear train. And ironically, if you get a 389 long nose, they're really easy to work on because you got this big gap between the engine and the actually it's probably more like that. It's quite a big gap in a long hood with an MX, but anyway, so yeah, I guess depending, rear gear train, plus or minus, I don't know. If you have an issue with your cam and they got to pull the engine out, if you got warranty, it's covered under warranty. And if you're a handy guy, you know what? Odds are it's probably easier to work on it outside of the truck anyways than ripping the hood off and pulling the front off. So, because that's the kicker. If you don't have to work on it very often, it doesn't matter if something is a little more difficult. So I guess that could be the other issue, but honestly, yeah, in today's world, you guys gotta save where you can. So I would seriously take a look at an MX engine. And people say that, oh, it's not enough power to do the job I do. Take a look at the big off-highway trucks. They actually all run Allison transmissions. They don't have more than 1850 foot-pounds of torque because you can't get any more torque with an Allison transmission. So you're probably going to be like 5 1/4, 500 horse, 1850 torque, an Allison transmission, and planetaries. Because at the end of the day, it's all about gearing. So big heavy haul stuff, off-highway stuff, it's gearing. Shoot, my truck that I had back in 2000, I had it for 7 years. It was a 460 horse Detroit, 1850 torque, and the day I got to turn it up to 500, it was like, ooh, I got 500 horse. So for people to say that 510 horse, 1850 foot-pounds of torque isn't good enough, I say you just don't want to shift gears in. And if you don't want to shift gears, get an automatic. And interestingly enough, Paccar's come out with the Endurant transmission. And I believe we've actually got some test models coming for the higher weight ratings, and the Endurant is a game changer, I tell you. The UltraShift, not gonna lie, we had some issues with the UltraShift mated to our MX engines, just the way they took the wheel speed off of, they took the speed off the wheel speed sensor. So then if you had issues with wheel speed sensor or wiring, then it created some headaches. And let me tell you, in our country where we've got salt and stuff, that was a bit of a bugger. Endurant is 100 times better, but it's like anything. It's technology. It's building a product to do the job instead of taking something that's already built. Like the UltraShift, it's a manual transmission, and then you put little servos on it to, get a robot to shift the gears. Whereas the Endurant, it's all internals and it's made to work that way. So I think that's the biggest difference is building a transmission to be an automatic. The Volvo I-Shift, it's a good transmission. You know what? It drives nice. It's expensiver than bejeebas, and it's in a Volvo, so it's really hard to drive because looking through those holes in the bag over your head, I'm telling you, your peripheral is cut down. So the Endurant, direct competitor. There's just the Endurant made it to an MX, driving it compared to the UltraShift, no comparison. It's a game changer. But anyways, I don't want this to be an infomercial as far as me like, oh, you got to buy a Paccar. It's the best thing in the world. But it's a good engine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And you know what? 510 horsepower is enough to do the job. 1850 torque is enough to do the job. Is 2050 nice? Yeah. But you know what the hard part is? It burns more fuel. And at the end of the day, it's going to cost a little bit more than what the MX does. And like I say, in today's world, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And I don't know about you, but it takes money to buy trucks and have hobbies. Well, I mean, obviously it takes money to buy trucks, but your hobbies take money. So if you want to buy a wicked old CABOVER, you need to save some money so that you can spend it. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I hope that helps. If it doesn't, I don't know what to say. Well, I shouldn't say that. well, you know, whatever. Do I like the MX engine? Dang right I like the MX engine. You know what else I should touch on? Being that the engine is a 13-liter engine, you can get it with a shorter bumper to back of cab. So how does that affect you, you may ask? Well, with being able to get the shorter bumper to back of cab because the engine is shorter, like in my quad spec MX that I built, and I built a few of them. In fact, that one that the customer just sold where he was saving 100 liters a day in fuel, I built it for Resource Expo. That's our local show or whatever. People are like, oh, it's not gonna work. Oh, Mike's crazy. Oh, you don't want to buy that. And in the end, yeah, it was a little harder to sell because it's like anything new. You gotta be thinking differently. You know, you can't just be part of the crew where you're like, oh, I'm gonna buy it because. Anyways, what am I talking about? So it was a little bit different. I went with the shorter bumper to back cab. So to pack a quad trailer in BC, the minimum, what the heck is it now? You know, generally on a 367 extended cab, I need a 278-inch wheelbase. On a regular cab or 567 cab, 268-inch wheelbase to fit a quad trailer when it's empty. Whereas going with the Paccar MX engines, because you're shorter bumper to back of cab, I could go down to a 262-inch wheelbase, which you might think, well, Mike, that's only, you know, what is that, like 6 inches? Like, what's 6 inches going to help? Well, it helps with a few things. But what's it going to help is you've now reduced this much of your turning radius. You've now lightened your truck up by this much. On that truck, I put aluminum air tanks on, which is, you know, it's an easy thing. Just click of the button, $40 option or 100. I can't remember what it is. It's not a big money option from Peterbilt. So you've got less frame, less hood, and a more compact package, so it turns sharper. The engine's a little bit lighter than a Cummins, and when you put the whole package together, it's lighter, turns sharper, burns less fuel. I would say about the only negative is in the wintertime, the Paccar engine actually does burn more DEF than a Cummins because the Paccar engine doesn't stop using DEF because it's cold, because apparently the DOC when it's cold, or is it the DOC? Anyways, the little sensor doodad that, NOx sensor. It's not the DOC. NOx sensor. Nitric oxide. Gotta say it with a little bit of a meaner voice. Nitric oxide, polluting the environment. Anyways, you're still putting it out there, but the sensor, I guess, because it's cold. So anyways, the Paccar engine still puts the DEF in there, whereas the Cummins, it's like, I don't know if it's there, so it just cuts it off. So I guess that's a plus for Cummins when it doesn't use it in the wintertime as much. But the MX does use it, which is partially why, well, actually it's probably a big reason why it gets a better greenhouse gas score, which means at the end of the day, you're not polluting the environment as much, you get a better score, it's easier for me to sell those engines, because at the end of the day, it's like a scorecard. You gotta, and it's just gonna get, you know what, 2025 is the next emissions thing, and it's gonna be even that much harder to get the polluty engines. But it really is. It's all about saving fuel, and don't even think about it as the, you know, mandating by the government. The government is trying to hurt me. There's some good things that can benefit you. If you can burn less fuel, if you can save some money, you know what? That's a great thing. And if you can still get a 389 with an MX, works awesome, and it looks cool. I mean, looks badass. I actually, you know what? I can't wait to find out what the 589 is going to look like. Or is it even going to be called a 589? I actually had a dream once that they called it a 511. And they were going to get away from the, you know, because it's a whole different design, but it was like the 1-1 trucker. I don't know if it was 511 or 111, and someone, in my dream, someone saw it and they said, you know what? It actually looks really good. So fingers crossed they're right, because I mean, you know what? When we lost the 379, people were like, oh no, the 389 is nothing like the 379, and the 379 replaced the 359. Well, you know what? The 589, which is probably what it'll be called, will replace the 389, and 10 years from now, that'll be the number one that everybody wants, because let's face it, Peterbilt is the king of the road. That's right. There is only one king, and that's Peterbilt. And I will take that to my grave. That's right. Well, and hopefully I don't have to take it to my grave anytime soon. Hopefully that's like in like 50 years, because in 50 years I'll be 99, and by that time I'll just be like a shriveled old man. But anyways, I'm off topic. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this was insightful. If you want some more information on the Paccar MX, just go to peterbiltmotors.com and you know what? Give it a try. If you can't get a truck and you can get a truck with an MX, you'll be able to get rid of it in 3 years, 4 years, and get whatever other engine that you want. But I can guarantee you that in that time frame, you're going to be saving money, and you'll have to seriously think about whether you want to, you know, go back to the other way, because at the end of the day, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And the way things are going, all our costs are just going do, 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 do. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Been a pleasure. If you like this video, please smash this subscribe button. Let's get to 30,000 subscribers by Christmas time. That's my goal. 30,000 subscribers by Christmas time. All I want for Christmas is 30,000 subscribers. And I really don't know why. I mean, it's, you know, 100,000. Well, actually, I know why. Because when I get to 1 million, this is what we're going to do. When we get to 1 million subscribers, I'm giving away a truck. Now, it probably won't be a new truck. I'm just going to be giving you a heads up. You know, 1 million subscribers isn't going to get you a new truck. Well, it might get you a new truck. I'd have to make a lot of money to build a new truck. But gosh, wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. And you know what, guys? People that say, you know what? I like your channel, but I really like conventionals more than CABOVERs. I'm Peterbilt Mike. I didn't say that I didn't like conventionals too. In fact, I've got my eyes open for a 379, 359, or a 389 if I could get one affordable enough. And you know what else I would like to do? I would like to take a 579 or a 567 and Mac Daddy it out. Because you know what, like right now you can get a 579 generally at the auctions pretty affordably. So if I could find one with an MX that say got, I don't know, 800,000 kilometers, maybe even 1 million, because it's a long life engine, I'm not worried about it as long, well, and actually I could do an oil sample, but I think they look really cool when they're done up, you know, slammed with the kind of arrow thing. It's a different look. Yes, I know I love the 389 too. It is a king of the road, but the 579, you know what? There's a place for that. If you Google cool looking 579s, there's some real cool stuff. And you know what I like about the new 579 is it's kind of like an homage to the needle nose. You know, you remember how the old needle nose Kenworth, the needle nose Peterbilt, well, 359, or what was before a 359 anyways? Was it a 352 or I don't know. And I should know, but let's face it, my head is full of all sorts of details, and you can't remember everything. Lord knows I can't remember everything. But yeah, so I'm gonna be building tractors too. I mean, I love my CABOVERs, but I'm Peterbilt Mike, not CABOVER Mike. So stay tuned for more wicked content, and I can't wait. I just can't wait. You know what? It's a big world out there. We got lots on the horizon. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Take care. And as always, see you on the flip side. And as always, see you on the flip side. And as always, see you on the flip side. That's kind of weird, eh? Woo. Maybe we need a better outro. And always. Thanks for watching Peterbilt Mike. No, that wouldn't be very good. Thank you for watching Peterbilt Mike. And thank you for watching Mike, Peterbilt Mike. Coming to you live. Coming to you on Tuesday, Peterbilt Mike. Talking tech, truck tech. Not any kind of tech, but truck tech, because that's what we do. That was kind of cheesy. I guess it's kind of my MOA. Yeah, what do you do? Take care, guys. Till next time.